Bonjour and welcome to WT France, the weekly podcast in which we explain WTF happened in French politics in the last 7 days. I'm your co-host Juliette.
And I am Pepijn. The podcast is a bit delayed this week. Normally we record on Saturday, but I was traveling on Saturday. Guess that's all there is. That's all the banter I have. I could ask a question again.
No. How about for a change you don't ask the same question that you've been asking for the last 2 months? How about I have a question for you today? So, do you know who Paul Durov is?
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's not it, but my first thought was Franz Botter of Karl Rove.
No.
Okay, second, Paul Durov, 90s Eurodance star. No limits.
We sure have
limited,
listened
actually.
to a lot of Eurodance at the Olympics, but it's not him either.
Okay, that's not it.
No, it's not.
Actually, I just don't know.
So this is very relevant to French politics this week. And there's been a really fun little discovery I had. It is the French name of someone who's definitely been in the news. Can you guess?
Oh wait, so it's Paul Durov. Pavel Durov, the
Pavel
Russian guy,
Durov.
the formerly Russian guy.
Yes, indeed. He is a
it's
Frenchman,
not
amongst
very
other
Eurodance.
things.
Yeah.
Well, it's very Eurodance, like from Russia to France via, I think it's Dubai. So the unlikely Frenchman, and yeah, that's the name on his French passport, Paul Durov.
Why?
I think literally because he could.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll get to that
It's actually
actually
a
in
cool
a bit.
name. That's the thing. It's very, very sinister.
It sounds super French, doesn't it?
It sounds super French. It also sounds like it could be a James Bond character.
I mean,
Not
what
with-
we're about to
Not sure which side.
unfold, he's definitely coming across as a James Bond character.
I hope he has a cat.
So he was very famously arrested this week. Do you know why?
You know, actually, I'm not entirely sure why he was arrested. Of course, maybe for context, for people who don't know, this is the man who started the Telegram messaging service. He owns it. He then moved in 2000 something. I'm pretty sure it was 2000 something. He moved outside of Russia to somewhere else.
Wow,
And
you're a
apparently got two
well-informed
passports.
man.
Oh yeah, I'm super informed. And then he created the 90s Eurodance hits or something. How about you tell me?
You're mixing up.
What was he arrested
Don't
for?
mix up the streams. Okay, so he was arrested for essentially refusing to cooperate with the French police, as they have been doing inquiries into child pornography and hateful content being spread on Telegram. There's a fairly unique to France, I think, approach to how these messaging platforms work, where the owner of the platform is directly responsible for the content that is being used for it.
Is there like a discussion about whether it's like a publishing platform or whether they're neutral or not? Is that type of stuff?
Yeah, there's a bit of that where basically they consider like you have an editorial connection to the content that's on there.
Oh, so when I start saying cats are better than dogs, he is on Telegram. He is technically responsible for
that, yeah. So the idea is that he is partly responsible, and it could be okay if, for instance, the French police goes to him and says, you've got to moderate that content, but especially what they're asking is, can you tell us who is pushing that content? And he's been refusing to share that. And in French law, that makes him a direct accomplice to the crimes committed. And child pornography, obviously, and hateful content are definitely crimes that have a very, very big punishment or high sentences attached to them. And he is liable for these things directly now.
Maybe you don't know this, but the question, this goes further than the Europe's digital media law then in responsibility?
I think so, because I think the European law says you've got to moderate that content. So if you see it, you've got to get rid of it and report it. But what the French law says is you've got to directly give us the names and as much information as you have on the people who have put that content there.
But if you don't have the information, you don't have the information. I think that's how some of the messaging systems work.
But he's refused to even say if he had information or not. It's a problem because it creates issues on the privacy laws. It's not a problem, if you're purely chasing child pornography. But the issue with that is you start with child pornography and then you find something else and then you find something else, and these are then become also liable. The French approach seems to be quite unique in the world. Like the extent at which the platforms are responsible for the content placed on them and the extent at which they have the expectation of giving information to police when they are searching. There was an interesting opinion piece this week in a French news website called Mediapart, written by two lawyers who are actually outlining how this specific law is quite dangerous, not for free speech, but for privacy. Because you can use a police search on child pornography, for instance, to then access more conversations that people have on these platforms, but that might also be illegal or organizing something. And then go like, oh, well, we didn't find the child pornography, but we found something else. And then suddenly, because we had like a justifiable under the law search on the child pornography, then we can extend that to what we found, which was different content, but it was still under illegal search.
And an example of this would be, as you hinted at for example, a person planning a protest.
Yes. On the one hand, you say, oh, we're trying to stop child pornography. Everyone's like, yes, we need to stop child pornography. But it actually has one of those slippery slopes arguments where you can find out like it's being used way beyond its intended scope. And you getting closer and closer to a law that is repressive of civil liberties.
Or it will eventually hurt the business of selling yellow jackets.
Yeah. And so what they're pointing out is if you look at this, then there is no way to have in France an encrypted messaging service that complies with the law.
But then it seems to me, as a Wikipedia-trained lawyer here, that French law might actually not agree with European human rights legislation.
That's going to be an interesting thing to follow because Pavel Durov obviously probably has the cash to continue pushing this all the way to the European Court of Human Rights.
So is this considered in France a political arrest?
Yes and no. Like not in the way that Pavel Durov is personally targeted. Like I don't think it's that personal. It probably feels very personal to him, but it's probably not. But rather, it's kind of this way to pressure all of the messaging platforms to cooperate with the French police. Like, this is what could happen to you, Mark Zuckerberg, if that's your name. Or, a lot of other platforms operate under similar approaches, actually are better encrypted than Telegram ever was. So it makes things a little bit difficult. And yeah, that's why I think we're not in a free speech problem. We are in a privacy rights problem.
Why does he actually have a French name?
So this is a really nice little side story that popped up this week. He has a French name because he got French nationality. And he got that in 2021. And the how he got it is extremely interesting and is definitely French politique. Because basically it looks like Macron made that happen for him.
Christ.
So there are many ways you can get French nationality.
You can be born in France.
You can, just be French through your parents or through being born in France. You can acquire it after having lived here for a long time and passing some tests and proving that you are a good person. So this here is a procedure called étranger émérite, which is an extremely rare one. Étranger émérite means like meriting foreigner.
Billionaire.
Often it means billionaire, not always. Literally, so I'm going to translate this. It is a French-speaking foreigner who contributes through their action to the influence of France, the prosperity of its economic and international relations.
Well, the prosperity of France. So Elon Musk probably by now could, because I'm not sure if he speaks French, but he's definitely trying to influence democracy all over the world.
And I mean, like, speaking French is also very relative here. Yeah. Because I think Pavel Durov doesn't speak that good French.
Yeah, but he's a billionaire.
And so the way this works is it's an ad hoc procedure that has to start at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then it goes through a very dark procedure. And then magically at the end, a rich person, famous person, both, has French nationality.
George Clooney, for example, he probably would
He doesn't speak French.
No, but he's a charming person. He sells coffee really well, and he also did movies, I think, now. And
No.
he's in ER as a doctor. And he comes across, I think, to a lot of people as a French-style person.
What is a French-style person?
A bit pedantic, but good-looking.
Is that how you think of me? A bit pedantic, good-looking?
Well, you are French by birth, so it's more for we should probably skip this part of the podcast out of the recording for you.
Maybe put it as bonus content at the end.
I'm not sure.
So, meriting foreigner is apparently what Pavel Durov is, which is like BS, obviously, because he doesn't really contribute to the international influence of France. He doesn't seem to even really like France much, probably even less this week.
And does he contribute, or does his companies contribute financially to France?
No.
Because it doesn't seem to be that either.
No, he is very loudly, it's a very tech bro thing. He's very loudly against taxes in general, that taxes should not exist. After the terrorist attacks in 2015 in Paris and Saint-Denis, he had published a message accusing the government, the socialist government, to be responsible for the attacks at the same level as the terrorists, because according to him, of the politics to take money from French people who work hard through taxes that are horribly high and spend it on useless wars in the Middle East, and through creating what he called a parasitic social paradise for North African immigrants.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Pavel Durov, or Paul Durov, he is not a great person. He sounds more like a right-wing...
He sounds like a tech bro.
Yeah, tech bro, yeah.
He sounds like a tech bro, and that is pretty much how he got invited by Emmanuel Macron in the Élysée, because Macron loves tech bros. He invited Elon Musk to the Élysée a few months ago.
Okay.
And everyone knows Elon Musk is not a good person at this point. And so he was invited to a lunch with the president in 2018. And that has finally been confirmed through people who know Macron. And at that lunch, he asked for the French nationality. Now, what's been interesting is this encounter was never listed, at least at that time, in the official agenda of Macron. And this is usually something that should be communicated. Like every week, Élysée shares like, this is the week ahead. This is what the president is going to be up to. Like just for, transparency in politics, you should have these things.
This seems to be a thing that should be listed. Our conversations always lead back to Macron, don't they?
They really do. It's annoying. Like I really wish there was more to this country.
Did you find a prime minister yet, Juliette?
Is this our transition?
This is a real start of the podcast. Hey, Juliette, welcome to the podcast. Did Macron find a prime minister?
He still has not. So we closed last week's podcast with Mélenchon's challenge of an LFI minister-free government. That was like the last-minute addendum. After all the parties that had been invited to the Élysée that were not in the left-wing coalition had said, we don't want LFI ministers, Mélenchon went like, okay, fine, no LFI ministers. Are you going to support Lucie Castet? Guess what happened?
I don't know.
Well, it immediately became clear that LFI wasn't the actual problem. The problem was that a left-wing government was going to have left-wing policies.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. How surprising.
Oh, no.
So the right-wing parties came forward and said, no, we don't want a government that will have an LFI program. And of course, it's an LFI program. It's a coalition program in which LFI is represented. So yeah, I think it was really smart of Mélenchon to put this challenge out there to point out that the issue really is with the content of the NFP program. Because the program of the NFP, a lot of things in there are very popular. Raising the minimum wage, going back on the retirement age reform, all of these things, they are things that a lot of people across France want, especially some of the kind of lower income people that voted for the extreme right. this is the kind of thing that works with them. And so kind of pointing out, this is where the issue really is. That was a very smart move of Mélenchon.
Okay. And what about Lucie Castet?
Well, she is not giving up. So she actually quit her day job. She'd been taking holiday for the past month and a half. She had canceled her actual holiday in Italy, drinking spritz in Tuscany for this. And now she's run out of holidays. And the job that she has, you can't do that while at the same time be doing politics, essentially. So she's made the choice of quitting that and going ahead and continuing to put pressure on Macron.
Okay.
There have been more interviews. That's the other thing that Macron's done. So he's brought more people to speak with him at the Élysée.
Billionaires or people that he wants to have in the cabinet?
Neither, actually. I think, so he spoke a lot with the extreme right on Monday, who said, unsurprisingly, that they would immediately censor a left-wing government. I don't think anyone expected anything else. I think for them, they're just biding their time, kind of let the situation get worse and worse, because the expectation on the extreme right, which I don't think is a wrong expectation, is that Macron is going to have to call another snap election in next July.
What about Pafil de Roof? Could he become prime minister?
I mean, technically, nothing stops him.
Let's move on.
He's French.
Yes.
Actually, I wonder if the constitution even says the person has to be French. It's just generally assumed.
You probably don't have to speak French either. So that'd be nice for international journalists. You can just do everything in English.
It would be nice for Macron because he'd have someone who just won't speak to journalists then, and he can do all the governing himself, which is what he likes to do.
So maybe this is... and I bet the right-wing parties are quite happy with this guy.
I don't know.
Actually, probably not. Let's continue about this. This might be a hypothetical for next week.
So more...
if it happens, I call it out.
Yes, he will credit you.
Get a sticker.
The Pepijn was right sticker.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of those. Come on.
It'll be a custom order, I guess, yeah.
So what else? He's brought in for consultation one person from the Socialist Party, whose name is Carole Delga, and she is the president of the region Occitanie, that's southwest of France. So Carole Delga is also the president of the Association of Regions, and she was there in that capacity. But that created a bit of tension because Olivier Faure, who is the head of the Socialist Party, said, we are not going back to the Élysée because we have made our position clear. Macron should take Lucie Castet. Macron's refused that. We have nothing more to talk about. But Carole Delga is one of among the Socialist Party, one of the people who's the more centrist and has been trying to push the political party that direction. This week was also the annual Socialist Party conference. And so there's been a lot of discussions on where should we stand? Should we try to have kind of a centrist social democrat alliance, which means ditching the rest of the coalition that got us elected, but gives us a chance to be in government? Or should we stick to the coalition that got us elected and push for a properly left-wing government? And that's where the Socialist Party is right now. It feels like it's very close to being split apart because of these differences of opinion.
But they have not made that decision yet.
They haven't. And I think there's some very loud people who wanted to work with Macron to create this kind of centrist government that would have social democrats in them. But they're actually not a majority in the Socialist Party. They're just very loud. And they're amplified by the centrists who definitely want that to happen because that's for them, that's the way out that they're seeing. That's also why there's been a new name again floated this week for prime minister. It's a man called Bernard Cazeneuve. And he has been prime minister before under François Hollande. And his name is being put forward by people who are not him. Because when he's been asked, what would you do? He said, well, I wouldn't say no, but I would do this with a left-wing program, including raising the minimum wage and bringing down the retirement age, which are the things that the right-wing and centrists are saying, no, we don't want a government that will do that. So we're kind of going in circles again. Because
if they're okay with those line items, they might as well be okay with Lucie Castet as well.
Exactly. And really what we're falling into here is that Macron wants to be the king and the kingmaker. That's how someone put it this week. He wants to be in charge. He wants a centrist government because he can then push it to do the exact policies that he wants. But he also wants to be the one who gets to decide who's going to be like making these things happen for him. He's playing this dual view of trying to be independent as the president, but also being extremely political. And it's just really being seen more and more, not just in France, but abroad, as a really big problem.
Moving on. How is the government? Are they governing already? Or are they still governing?
They're still governing, for sure. For placeholder government, they're doing a lot of non-placeholding. Big things that are happening this week and like next week, back to school. So it's going to be the end of the holiday for French school children everywhere. There are actual problems in the education ministry. There's 3,000 teacher posts that are not filled out of, there's a lot of teachers in France. I heard on the radio quoted 850,000 teachers totally.
Okay, so that is way under a percentage.
It's not a lot percentage-wise, but if you're the parent whose kid doesn't have a teacher in front of him or her at the school start, that's no fun.
Of course.
And that's a recurring problem. Like it happens every year. There's a little bit more teacher posts that are vacant. Next thing that's going on that's a big deal is the budget. So our non-political prime minister, who's definitely a political man, Gabriel Attal, is looking for more savings. We talked about it last week. And he's found 3 billion euro in savings at the Ministry for Labour.
Oh, nice.
That's under a very optimistic view that unemployment is going to go down, which like they're just predicting that magically next year unemployment will go down.
Oh, that's always nice when you can see the future.
And then more on the budget. So those ceiling letters that I mentioned last week that went out have not been communicated to the people in charge of budget at the National Assembly. So that's really annoyed the two people who are leading the finance commissions in the Assembly. There are two men called Éric Coquerel. He's from LFI, the left wing, and Charles de Courson. He is a centrist, but definitely one who does not like Macron. He's part of a political group called Lyot that specifically are unaffiliated. And so they've been asking questions about the ceiling letters. I could do like a whole side podcast about the Coquerel de Courson duo, but we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out. Let's not do that.
There's also issues with the budget of local governments. So there's like 10 billion euro that are missing.
Stolen.
Not stolen, but like just...
Someone left it on a train.
They need the local communities, the small towns in particular, they need that money to do things like running school buildings, fixing small roads, potholes, that kind of things.
Yeah, and basic stuff that people see in their daily life. That is really done by local communities in France.
Yeah. And that money is missing. And there's reductions in the national budget that hit those communities directly. Another thing is the Green Fund. So in 2024, there was 2.5 billion euro in a fund that's dedicated to things like financing local green transition projects. And that could be anything from you've got a school building that has terrible isolation and you're just fixing that and it uses less energy to function.
Single glazing while you're in the Alps and basically put normal triple glazing in there.
And these things obviously cost money. They're also very important. They're part of the green transition to stop climate change. Well, from 2.5 billion in 24, it's going down to 1 billion in 25. That's an enormous reduction when you consider the size of the country and the amount of work that needs to be done. One of the issues, I think, is that Macron's party doesn't actually have a lot of local anchors. Like there's not a lot of communities that have people from Macron's party elected because it's a fairly new party. And he's not this way hearing a lot directly from underground people who are like, this is a problem. We're running out of money. He's not getting that internal pressure. Whereas like former presidents have been from really big parties like the Socialist Party, the Républicain, and its old iterations.
Older parties as well that have basically a network, a vertical network to society.
Exactly. And these things would then come up. they're not coming up to Macron at all.
Would you say he lives in a bubble in this, or is it more that he wants to live in a bubble?
He wants to live in a bubble.
Because he could ask. He's a smart man.
Yeah, and people are telling him. He's just assuming that anyone who's not directly supporting him is out there to hurt him.
Okay, yeah. Anything more?
Something I want to mention, even though we're running out of time, is a very shitty event that happened earlier this week at La Grande Motte. That's a seaside town in the Mediterranean. There was an attack on the local synagogue. And I want to highlight it. It's not really been a big politics topic, but it has been a significant event because there is a real anti-Semitism problem, I think, in France, in a lot of countries, but it's been rising. Like people seeing what Israel is doing in Gaza, and instead of going like, this is what Israel is doing in Gaza, blaming all Jewish people for that, which is super hateful and super dumb. Luckily, no one was hurt. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I think not bringing these things up and not bringing up how dumb and hateful it is what allows hate to fester.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's by not mentioning it, by allowing it, it makes it worse. And in the end, it's worse for also the people in Gaza.
Yes. So, I wanted to bring this up. Now, I do want to end on something nice. Yes, I think I want to start doing this every week. I forgot last week, but I don't want to end on a bummer.
I have an idea.
Tell me.
Paralympics.
Yes! No, not Paralympics. Paralympics.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, did they rebrand it?
No, it's always been Paralympics.
Not in my head.
Well, now you know. It's Paralympics, not Paralympics.
It makes so much sense, actually. Okay. Hey, I think the first time in my life that I noticed that.
It's been written in front of you.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, so the opening ceremony was lovely.
But there was no blue Smurf.
There was no blue Smurf.
But it was really lovely, was it? Yeah.
Yes. If you haven't watched it, you should. In particular, I loved, there was a song by an artist called Lucky Love. It was just beautiful. Watch the thing. Maybe you can fast forward a little bit through the parades of nations where you spend an hour looking at people walking or rolling. But overall, the ceremony was absolutely beautiful.
It was a very romantic, dreamy ceremony. I also skipped the bit where everyone comes in, but the rest of the ceremony I watched. It was lovely to watch. So this is a good note to end on. Positive thing. I guess see you next week.
Yeah, à la semaine prochaine.
Bye.